and we need to defend our way of life from the barbaric Russian imperialism. We need to contain Russia.
Any other questions?
Okay,
No
thank you very
questions.
much. Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone, my name is Baiba Braja. I'm Latvian Foreign Minister, the new one, first NATO ministerial for me. An important day for all of us. It's an informal ministerial, so there won't be so much in the public as always from the formal meetings. But very clearly, the main issue to discuss is Ukraine and the package that we will get ready for Ukraine in terms of both practical support, coordination of assistance, civilian part, political part, but also how to bridge the current status of Ukraine with a future membership in NATO, which has been politically decided already. That's where we are. For Latvia, it's very important also to be very clear that we need a containment strategy for Russia. Our problem is Russia. We will support Ukraine, we will do everything that is necessary, but the main issue is Russia. Russia is the one that is creating problems for all of us. It's not going to go away. The structures, the system is what it is, so we have to be ready not only deter and defend, but also have a comprehensive toolbox to deal with Russia. So those are the issues I will be raising here. We are also very grateful to all the allies, ensuring deterrence and defense on the Latvian territory and across the allies' territory. So NATO is a peace alliance, as strong as ever. More than 2% for defense. In Latvian case, it's 3% for defense capabilities. It's the alliance able both to deter and defend. Thank you.
Minister, why is the German air defense initiative picking up so slowly?
There are objective reasons for that. I mean, we have as many air defense capabilities as we have. To produce new ones, to buy new ones takes time. So it's prioritizing those that are needed for Ukraine, and the process is good. We are very grateful to German government for doing this.
We're lack of air defense of the eastern flank?
We are doing our share. We have made decisions jointly to buy that. We have Spanish NASAMS in Latvia. There is air policing. There is a whole secure plan of defense, so we are comfortable.
Are you worried that this new policy of allowing Ukraine to attack also military targets, especially from the US, might lead to a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia?
It's not a new policy. It has been there from the beginning, because from the early on, when it became clear that Ukraine was both able to defend and ready to defend, and that Russia was not going to take Kiev in 3 days, it was clear that those allies who support Ukraine and will be providing military assistance, lethal assistance, needed to be sure that they don't become party to the war. So we had a thorough legal, political analysis, and that right to self-defense that Ukraine has under UN Charter against military aggression by Russia includes right also not only to strike Russian forces on Ukrainian territory, but legitimate military objects also on the Russian territory. So legitimate military objects is a key word, meaning those that Russia uses to attack, that Russia is preparing to attack, and so on and so forth. So we will hear from the US itself. Currently it's media reports, so we will know more.
But there are countries such as Germany who are still hesitant, especially the German Chancellor. Should he follow the example of the US and other countries and allow Ukraine to use weapons?
In our view, yes, because it provides the ability for Ukraine to defend itself not only easier, but also it's much more efficient for us providing the aid that Ukraine is able to take out those capabilities from Russia will be attacking it. And it's very clear in case of Kharkiv what is happening. Russia is attacking from its own territory. So how can Ukraine not self-defend? So let's just do it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's okay. No, not really. As you all know, the NATO accession process ended well for Sweden. We became members. And it ended also with Hungary buying the JAS Gripen air fighters to the Air Force from us. And I don't really think that that is an advice I can give to Mark Rutte at this moment.
What is your reaction to the announcement of Joe Biden yesterday to allow Ukraine to use Western weapons also to reach targets in Russia?
Well, everything that Sweden has been given to Ukraine has been given without any restrictions, bar that you have to follow, of course, international humanitarian law. And this is the clear message from the Swedish government that as long as the things that are being donated to Ukraine is being used within the framework of international humanitarian law, they of course should be free to use that to defend themselves. They have been attacked unlawfully by Russia, which is the aggressive part. If you are under attack, you have a right to defend yourself.
Do you think the decision of the US will change because of the war?
Well, I'm not a military expert, I'm a foreign minister, but I can say that everything that we have donated or given so far to Ukraine has been put to good use by them, so it's a good chance that the more they are being able to defend themselves, the more they are able to get to a point where they can win this war. And winning the war is ultimately the goal, because without Ukraine winning the war, Russia is not going to alter its strategic goals, which is the annihilation of Ukraine as a state and the upturning of a rules-based international order and the European security architecture. So it is in our interest, it is in the interest of both EU and NATO that the Ukrainians win this war.
Is it time to send gas Greenland to Ukraine?
Well, that has already been brought forward, but as you know, that was a clear message sent from the F-16 coalition that at the moment we shouldn't do that because it will be too much of a bite for Ukraine to integrate two air fighter systems at the same time. So maybe the Gripen will come after the F-16 coalition has fulfilled its task. However, the Swedish government has instead offered an alternative, and that is that we will now give two ASKs instead. And ASK is, of course, the airborne air surveillance systems, which will add significantly to the F-16's coalition ability to provide Ukraine with a reliable air fighting system, because airborne radar is a capacity which Ukraine has lacked, and now we, Sweden, will provide this.
Russia is shopping off Korean artillery on a big scale, while the artillery from the Czech initiative is only being delivered in June. How concerned are you about this delay?
I think, of course, that we should speed up. This has less to do with the Czech initiative, which is commendable. We stand fully behind it, and it has really provided Ukraine with more artillery shells than what was the case before. What we have to do is to increase the actual production on either European soil or Ukrainian soil of artillery shells. And I can only speak for my own country. We have a NAMO factory in Karlskoga, which is a joint venture between Sweden, Finland and Norway. They are running 5 shifts and will, at the end of the year, have tripled the production of artillery shells. This also shows that this war isn't really about industrial capacity or industrial production. We outproduce Russia, the West, in a relation 25-1. So what we need is political willingness and political leadership. That is what's going to win this war and help Ukraine. And that goes also for industrial production.
When is Sweden going to send money to the Czech initiative?
Well, we are on our way, and this is more a question about the payment in relation to our budgetary systems than the lack of willingness. We are fully behind the Czech initiative, and our Czech friends knows this and has also shown that they are aware of this. Then the money will come, of course.
What needs to be done in order to speed up the German air defense initiative?
Well, I think that this question is better asked to Germany than to Sweden, because Germany is, after all, an independent nation and have to answer for their decisions. We stand behind our decision to continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes, until the victory is here. And it is only Ukraine that has the right to decide when they want to enter into any kind of negotiations.
Would Sweden like to take part in the German air defense initiative, or Sweden will continue to
Now, we have had a very long and good standing cooperation with Germany. The IRIS-T is a very good example of how Sweden and Germany has cooperated, and I'm not ruling out anything at the moment in this regard. Well, that's all, I think. Very good. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Good morning. important day to prepare for the NATO summit. And of course, interesting news, but let's cover as well not only US internal policy, but also what we are going to discuss here. I'm making a couple of points. First is about, of course, Ukraine. We must understand that Russia can lose this war. And I feel that there is some kind of hesitation about that. And if we support Ukraine militarily, so Ukraine can win the war. This is the situation. And what I hope to discuss is the NATO long-term commitment, about the NATO members as well. Estonia is going to sign as well the bilateral agreement with Ukraine, and we have put in as well the 0.25% of GDP support for long-term. And I think that GDP is an honest figure, and all the NATO members should do the same, and this will be the discussion. And the second thing is about the hybrid threats. As you know, we had a border incident in Estonia where Russia took 25 border boys. But also we have many other hybrid attacks in Europe as well. So we have to focus on how to deal with Russian hybrid attacks as well. And of course we have to decide the next steps about Ukraine, the way to be a member of NATO. And this is very important that the NATO declaration will be more than we had in Vilnius, but also we need to decide this NATO mission about Ukraine. So these are the real activities to fulfill this way for Ukraine to NATO. So thank you. Important is that actually we are dealing with that, but I'm not satisfied about the speed that our western part giving this military support to Ukraine, because every day, tonight as well, Ukraine is losing lives, maybe hundreds of lives. And we have these capabilities as patriots and other air defense capabilities, and we must give them. Unfortunately, Estonia has given most what we have had, but we don't have this kind of systems. But the good thing is that Germany has taken this initiative and leading this group, but I'm waiting for deliverers. And it's not only the question about the Germany. Germany is doing a great job. It's a question for us as a Western part. We need to give this air protection and air defense systems to Ukraine. And one is, of course, the military part, but actually Russia is just bombing the infrastructure, and it's a huge part of the energy infrastructure is already destroyed. So we have the systems, we must give it to Ukraine. Thank you. This is a very important question, and Estonia has been from the first day in the position that Ukraine has all the lawful position to use the weapons to protect itself, and also in territory of Russia, if there is a need for that, targeting military infrastructure or the strategic infrastructure. Happily, more and more countries are following that, and I really do hope that US, Germany, all the others are taking down these limits for Ukraine. If we are not able to deliver this kind of military support so rapidly as Ukraine is asking, but then we have to deal with that. But these limits are not actually rightful limits. We have to give the freedom to Ukraine to protect itself. You see, we have calculated that this 0.25% of GDP, this is doable for everybody. And it doesn't need to be like, very crazy thing for your economy and society. And we have decided to deliver during the next 4 years, per year, 0.25%. It's altogether 120 billion euros per year, and it will be enough for Ukraine to push Russia back. And if we all do it, then it is possible. So now we are talking about 100 billion or whatever altogether. The case is that the GDP figure is the honest figure, actually, about the burden sharing and what the society is carrying. Estonia has given now, within 2 years, 1.5% of GDP military support, and of course adding as well all the other support. So, but this GDP figure, 0.25, this is actually more and more popular. And I think we are going to discuss this today as well, that this long-term commitment bilaterally is important and it is doable. So I think that this is a solution for everybody. Yeah. We were in Georgia together with the Baltics and Iceland foreign ministers just a couple of weeks ago, and the situation in Georgia is really, really concerning because Georgian government has decided to turn from the path of European Union to the Russian influence. I think that we don't have to just cut down these relations with Georgia, but we have to speak out and we have to talk to the Georgian government that it is their decisions whether they are going to move forward towards NATO and EU or actually they are turning away. We have to deal with Georgian government because what we have, it's a huge support from Georgian people towards NATO and EU membership. The polls are like 86% of people are supporting this. So I think that Georgia is not the lost case. We have to deal with them and we have to very concrete ways to talk to Georgian government that there will be consequences if they are continuing this way. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. Hi. Good to see you. I think the time is coming when it will be determined whether we as an alliance are serious. And serious about quite a lot of things. Are we serious about assisting Ukraine to win this war? Are we serious to deter Russia so that Russia has strategic dilemmas if it continues further in Ukraine, but also if it continues with its hybrid activities in Europe and in NATO. If we're serious about inviting new members. Because we have been quite good at speaking nice words, making promises, but we have to start delivering on this. And it's not just about those who depend on our promises, but it's also about our credibility. And I wish that this alliance will find strength in itself. And as celebrating 75 years of anniversary, also very clearly declares that yes, we are serious, we can win, we can deter, and we can invite new members. That's my hope for today, and also for Washington.
Now that others have lifted restrictions on the use of weapons against targets in Ukraine, which in your view are legitimate targets?
Look, I've always been of an opinion that Ukrainians are absolutely capable of defining the targets. I have full confidence that they know, they see, and they understand what is needed, where the threat comes from. I understand that not every country in the alliance sees it that way, but I hope that through the conversation with Ukrainians and hearing the Ukrainians, the decisions will be formed, so that they are not imposed, but they're coming also from the friend country, allied country, for some, at least the way we see it, where they need to hit. Obviously, first of all, it's military targets, encampments of troops, holdings of military equipment, and stuff like that.
So in your view, it's not enough. The US
Well, we don't know the clear information, right? At least I'm not sure, how the setting is going. Therefore, my answer is more general. That my hope is that the advice to the allies, what they are going to allow, comes from Ukraine.
should it be allowed to be targeting Belarus as well as Russia?
Look, I mean, the point is that Ukraine has to have an ability to defend itself. If Russia, fearing that the targets might be hit in Russia, would be moved somewhere else, I think that the targeting should be moved as well.
Minister, Stoltenberg admitted yesterday that NATO has done enough to support Ukraine. How do you explain the delay in participation and the reluctance participation in the German air defense?
Well, there is truthfulness in his words, because there are not so many executive decisions made by NATO when it comes to assisting Ukraine. Most decisions that are made either are made in Rammstein format, which is a like-minded group that goes beyond NATO, or it's a bilateral agreements. So NATO is not like EU in this regard. Where EU, we are stuck because we always try to have a EU decision. NATO, it's mostly at this point it's political decisions when it comes to assisting Ukraine. Therefore, I emphasize on accession of new members, because this is definitely the decision that is politically made by member states. And whether this question is, have we done enough, I wouldn't be so convinced.
And on the political reluctance on joining the German air defense initiative?
But then again, right, it's not a NATO decision. It has never been put, for NATO deliberation, right? We encourage all the member states to participate in the settings that are being formed. And now we have a couple of them, so first of all, Czech initiative. Again, not all the countries joined, but a big group of countries joined. Then we have French initiative, for training or sending troops to Ukraine. Again, Lithuania clearly indicates that we are ready. And then it's German. And then again, we indicate that we are ready to join with our radar systems that are going to complement the equipment that's being sent by Germany to Ukraine. But then it's up to all the countries to decide whether they are, as I mentioned at the beginning, serious about their commitment. And if they are, these three options on the table, I think that could be a very good step forward. Thank you.
Hi. Today is a very important day. It's the preparation for the NATO Washington summit. And as the Netherlands, we are very clear. We will support whatever it takes Ukraine as long as it takes. So it's time to strengthen our support for NATO, for Ukraine, and do everything we can to let them win this tragic and really irresponsible war of Russia to Ukraine. And Ukraine has to prevail, and we are here to make the right preparations for the Washington summit.
The Danish defense minister has announced that Danish F-16s will have no restrictions regarding use of airspace, so they will be allowed to operate in Russian territory. Will that also apply to the Dutch F-16s?
The Netherlands already made very clear, if we look at the principle of using the Dutch different weapon systems, then it's most important to follow Article 51 of the UN Charter, and that if you have the right of self-defense, there's no geographical boundaries on making use of weapon systems. So that's the common principle. So, I'm sorry? No, it's the general principle we use, and we are still of course, busy with the Americans to make all the F-16s available, and we are really doing everything we can as soon as possible to let the F-16s fly above the skies in Ukraine. I won't comment on other countries and what they do or don't, but I will make a very strong plea that it's really possible to make use of weapon system within Article 51 of the UN Charter and with the right of self-defense to really use those weapons also on Russian soil if those conditions are met. And that's the most important, because we have to be creative at supporting Ukraine in this fight to win this war against Russia. Thank you.
Morning. Looking forward to a very good preparatory meeting for Washington. Any questions? Yes. You know everything. To my best knowledge, Poland has never imposed any such restrictions. We wish Ukraine victory. We wish them the full recovery of all the occupied territories.
And which are legitimate targets now inside Russia in your assessment?
Well, the laws of war regulate that. Ukraine has the right to defend itself according to the rules of humanitarian law.
What is the reason for the slow progress of the German air defense initiative?
That's a very good question to the government of Germany. Well, Poland has supported the strengthening of Europe's defense capacity for years. Remember, Poland and Greece are ruled by prime ministers from the European People's Party. And our contribution to the deliberations in the conference on the future of Europe was the proposal to create a joint headquarters. We supported the idea of a rapid reaction capacity. Thank God we have the European Peace Facility, from which we've been able to support Ukraine. And we need other elements that will enable us to deal with lower order threats. Deterring Putin is a job for NATO, but there may be lower order threats that Europe should be capable of dealing with on its own.
What kind of financial for military aid to Ukraine should be decided in Washington?
Well, Poland has sent 44 packages of assistance to Ukraine. We are now organizing our 45th, and the last few have been around 100 million euros each. We think we've contributed in military assistance alone around 4 billion euros so far. So I hope if others took the cue from us in proportion to their GDP, Ukraine would be on the offensive.
One question on the initiative for an air defense shield that was launched by Poland and Greece. How does that relate, or how would it relate to the German initiative, SE?
We need to look at all these proposals in detail and quickly and decide what's doable and do that. In this area, we are behind the curve, and we should accelerate. I have spoken to him many times on the EPF, and we are tired of the excuses. blocking the 8th tranche and all the other tranches, therefore, and not being able to receive the money that is owed to us. Bilateral issues should be dealt with bilaterally, and Europe should not be held hostage by bilateral issues. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Hier in Prag. Und dieses Treffen ist für mich besonders wichtig. Wir haben das selber vor 2 Jahren in Berlin initiiert, ein NATO-Außenministertreffen zu haben, was vor allen Dingen inoffiziell ist, das heißt hinter verschlossenen Türen, vor allen Dingen die Dinge in Ruhe zu besprechen, die besonders heikel sind. Das war damals dringend geboten, nach dem Angriff auf die Ukraine im Februar, dann im Frühsommer zusammenzukommen und über die schwierigen Herausforderungen zu sprechen. Damals, wenn Sie sich erinnern, insbesondere auch die Frage, wie geht es weiter mit Schweden und Finnland, die in der Situation waren, dass dadurch, dass der russische Präsident den Angriffskrieg nach Europa zurückgebracht hat, für sich ihre Sicherheitslage dramatisch verändert hat. Und wir haben daraus gesehen, wie wichtig es ist, dass wir gerade auch in diesen Zeiten, wo ein Bündnis mit dem Verständnis zusammensteht, einer für alle und alle für einen, Orte haben, wo wir eben Herausforderungen auch für das Bündnis in Ruhe besprechen können. Und das gilt jetzt, fast 2,5 Jahre nach Beginn dieses furchtbaren Angriffskrieges, weiterhin, weil wir sehen, dass der russische Präsident mit aller Brutalität seinen Angriff nicht nur auf die Menschen in der Ukraine fortsetzt, sondern auch an der Außengrenze der Europäischen Union, an unserer NATO-Grenze zündelt, immer wieder provoziert, wie zum Beispiel das jüngste Beispiel mit den Bojen. Daher ist eben die Frage der Sicherheit, gerade auch für unsere osteuropäischen Partner, für unsere baltischen, für unsere nordischen Partner, so zentral. Und ich bin dankbar, dass der Generalsekretär der NATO dafür einen Platz und Raum geschaffen hat, nicht nur über die Frage, wie wir die Ukraine weiter massiv unterstützen, finanziell und bei der Luftverteidigung die schwierigen Herausforderungen vertrauensvoll angehen, sondern gerade auch noch einmal unterstreicht mit diesem Treffen hier vor Ort in Prag, dass wir als Allianz zusammenstehen, einer für alle und alle für einen. Die schwierigen Fragen der Luftverteidigung, die der Verteidigungsminister und ich ja beim letzten NATO-Außenministertreffen in Brüssel angestoßen hatten, auch die werden hier natürlich eine große Rolle spielen. Wir haben bekanntermaßen als Bundesrepublik Deutschland ein weiteres Patriot-System auf den Weg gebracht. Der Verteidigungsminister hat gestern in Odessa noch mal deutlich gemacht, dass wir weitere 500 Millionen € bereitstellen, gerade auch zur Luftverteidigung. Und wir besprechen weiter mit unseren Partnern, wie wir die Luftverteidigung stärken können. Das sind sensible Fragen, weil es natürlich auch um die Frage geht von Nachbarländern der Ukraine. Was bedeutet es für sie mit Blick auf die Luftverteidigung, wenn das russische Regime an ihrer eigenen Grenze auch immer wieder zündelt? In diesem Gestus sind wir heute hier zusammen. In dieser Haltung bereiten wir den Gipfel der NATO-Staats- und Regierungschefs in Washington vor und machen damit deutlich, dass wir der Brutalität Putins unsere Menschlichkeit und vor allen Dingen unseren Zusammenhalt für Frieden und Sicherung der Freiheit in Europa entgegensetzen. Gerade weil wir in einer Situation sind, wo der russische Präsident immer wieder deutlich macht, dass er vor nichts zurückschreckt, dass er aber auch falsche Narrative als Teil seiner Kriegspropaganda nutzt, ist es für mich zentral, dass gerade auch wir sehr, sehr differenziert sind in unseren Formulierungen und das vielleicht auch als Bitte an die ganze öffentliche Debatte. Der russische Präsident hat im Februar einen brutalen Angriffskrieg auf die Ukraine und damit auf dem europäischen Kontinent angefangen. Gegen jegliches internationales Recht, gegen die Charta der Vereinten Nationen, gegen das Völkerrecht. Und das Völkerrecht ist sehr klar. Wenn Staaten angegriffen werden, dann haben sie nicht nur das Recht, ihr Land zu verteidigen, sondern jedes Land hat die Pflicht, seine Bevölkerung zu schützen. Und deswegen haben wir von Anfang an deutlich gemacht, unsere ganze militärische Unterstützung dient genau dem Schutz der Zivilbevölkerung in der Ukraine, der Sicherung der territorialen Integrität der Ukraine und der Sicherung der Charta der Vereinten Nationen. Und das Völkerrecht war von Anfang an und ist immer klar. Es macht deutlich, dass man Angriffe abwehren kann. Und in diesem Verständnis, in den Leitplanken des Völkerrechts haben wir in den letzten 2,5 Jahren unsere militärische Unterstützung gezeigt. Und deswegen ist mir wichtig, wenn jetzt darüber gesprochen wird, auch auf russischem Gebiet einsetzen. Darum geht es doch überhaupt nicht. Es geht darum, die völkerrechtswidrigen Angriffe Russlands auf die Ukraine so zu unterbinden, dass Menschen in der Ukraine nicht sterben müssen, dass die zivile Infrastruktur zerstört wird. Das machen wir mit unserer Luftverteidigung. Wir liefern ja prioritär Luftverteidigung. Und ich habe in Kharkiv selber erlebt, was es bedeutet, wenn Städte direkt an der russischen Grenze angegriffen werden. Dann bleibt nicht mehr viel Zeit, Luftverteidigung zu aktivieren. Und deswegen gilt, was auch der Kanzler deutlich gemacht hat, wir unterstützen die Ukraine im Rahmen des Völkerrechts. Wir verteidigen das Völkerrecht. Und das ist an dieser Stelle ganz klar und deutlich, dass man sein Land, seine Bevölkerung bei Angriffen schützen kann, sodass der Schutz auch funktioniert. Und zugleich tun wir alles dafür, dass wir in diesen Krieg als Europäische Union, als NATO nicht hereingezogen werden. Ich habe mich eben sehr klar geäußert, das Völkerrecht gilt und seine Zivilbevölkerung, die darf man nicht nur schützen, die muss man als Land schützen in den Grenzen des Völkerrechts und so haben wir das immer wieder deutlich gemacht. Und nochmal, wir sind in einer Situation, wo ein brutaler Angriffskrieg tobt, mit allen Mitteln. Hybride Kriegsführung, das bedeutet eben nicht nur Angriffe militärisch von Russland auf die Ukraine. Wir haben es gesehen, das bedeutet ein Getreidekrieg, das bedeutet Destabilisierung in Europa von innen heraus, wo wir auch mit Blick auf Spionage oder Attentate Verbindungen nach Russland haben. Und wir erleben auch, dass Fake News, dass der hybride Krieg vor allen Dingen sich im Netz fortsetzt. Und deswegen ist diese Darstellung, es ginge irgendwie darum, dass Material in Russland eingesetzt wird, einfach falsch. Es geht darum, dass die Ukraine sich bestmöglich verteidigen können muss. Und dafür unterstützen wir, dafür tun wir alles als Europäische Union und auch als NATO im Rahmen des Völkerrechts, ohne selbst in diesen Krieg hineingezogen werden. Und öffentliche Diskussionen über jedes Komma verteidigen nicht die Ukraine, sondern helfen im Zweifel dem Aggressor. Und genau das wollen wir verhindern. Geschlossenheit zeichnet sich auch dadurch aus, dass man Personalfragen nicht öffentlich diskutiert. Wir sind in einer Situation, ich kann mich da nur ständig wiederholen, wo es darum geht, vom russischen Präsidenten uns zu destabilisieren, uns als Europäer, aber vor allen Dingen auch uns als die Partner, die weltweit für den Frieden einstehen. Und das werden wir nicht zulassen und deswegen führe ich auch keine Personaldebatten. Wir haben deutlich gemacht als Bundesregierung, wir halten es für richtig, und vor allen Dingen als einen wichtigen, starken Schritt, dass Mark Rutte auf den jetzigen Generalsekretär folgt. Und das werden wir aber gemeinsam nur beschließen können. Und auch deswegen sind so inoffizielle Treffen sehr, sehr hilfreich, dass wir schwierige Fragen hinter verschlossenen Türen besprechen können. Dazu habe ich mich klar geäußert, dazu hat sich der Bundeskanzler klar geäußert. Und nochmal, aus meiner Sicht ist es wirklich nicht die richtige Diskussion, dass man jedes Detail, wie die Ukraine sich verteidigt, in der Öffentlichkeit breit diskutiert. It's about defense, and therefore I'm not reacting to question where we are giving an impression that anybody is hitting on Russia. Nobody is hitting on Russia. Russia is hitting illegally against the international law on Ukraine. Ukraine is defending itself, and we are doing everything to help Ukraine that it can defend not only its country but its citizens. And we see in Kharkiv, to defend its citizens in Kharkiv, in a big city close to the Russian border, self-defense means also preventing that rockets are hitting schools, hospitals or supermarkets. And therefore we have made very clear from the beginning on that the right of self-defense is our line of support, and we are doing everything that NATO is not being torn into this war. And these are these guidelines which we are following and others are following as well. Thank you very much.
Good morning. We look forward to a very intensive session in preparation to the Washington summit. We think it's extremely important that we solidify our support to Ukraine, and very much so it's this way. Okay. That we solidify our support to Ukraine. Of course, there will be discussions on how we formulate, for instance, the upcoming future membership of Ukraine in NATO, which is extremely important and which we also look forward to. But first and foremost, it is so important that we put together all our efforts that we can enable Ukraine's defense now in the short term, obviously in the medium term, and also for the future, because obviously not in order to prepare for a long-term war, but we know that only with sufficient means of aiding Ukraine and showing the aggressor that we are there for the long haul if need be, then that will also raise Ukraine into the position where they can credibly defend themselves. And the aggressor probably will only see that as a reason to also back down. We do see that Russia does pose a long-term strategic threat to the Euro-Atlantic alliance, and therefore it is the duty of each and every ally to participate in the project of ramping up our defense and also ramping up the aid towards Ukraine. And Finland's proposal is that together as an alliance we see and we analyze what the level of support is that we need to provide Ukraine in whichever time frame, now for the rest of the year, for next year, and so on and so forth. And after that, the burden will be shared according to the GDP of each and every participating country. Then we would be at a level which is completely fair, and we would respond accordingly, and what is important, without delay to the needs in Ukraine. And also finally, especially I want to highlight that there's a specific need for air defense in Ukraine now, not only in the front line and in order to be able to push Russia back, but also in order for Ukraine to be able to better protect their critical infrastructure. We have seen Russia actually striking from behind the border towards Ukrainian civilian architecture, civilian infrastructure, which obviously poses and is a war crime in itself, and hitting civilians. Now, in many areas, in many regions of Ukraine, the electricity production is completely down. So this is not something we can accept to happen, especially towards, again, the new winter, which will be coming. So we need air defense now, and we just call on everybody to take this plea very, very seriously. But looking forward to good discussions, and we already had very, very good and productive discussions yesterday, so will be a good day.
Just had the discussions on air defense think the German initiative for air defense is moving so soon?
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful for Germany's leadership in trying to pull together all strings in order to have the most effective air defense, and basically that's what Ukraine now needs. And unfortunately, the case is, and it applies to many sorts of defense equipment that we in Europe we have been not awake on the same level we should have been. And now finally, unfortunately, when the full-scale war started, then all countries started to seriously consider that we really need to be ramping up our defense and also our defense industry. But it just simply takes time. But now what is crucial is that we provide Ukraine especially the air defense that they need, and if need be, we scratch together also the financing from other sources. Ja, klar. Ich finde, es ist ganz wichtig, dass wir ganz klar und deutlich sagen, dass die Ukraine ganz klar basierend auf dem Charta der UNO, der Vereinigten Nationen, das Recht hat, nicht nur sich zu verteidigen, sondern auch militärische Ziele auf der Seite des Angreifers anzugreifen. Und das ist die finnische Position gewesen. Wir liefern der Ukraine und die Ukraine darf entscheiden, wie sie das Material einsetzt. Das Wichtigste ist natürlich für uns, dass die Ukraine sich da an die internationalen Abkommen hält, und soweit ist es klar, ist es auch das gewesen. Und wir finden es ganz, ganz wichtig, dass auch diese Einsicht jetzt mehr und mehr Anhänger auch in der NATO findet, und vor allem natürlich, dass die größten Lieferer von Verteidigungsmaterial auch dem mittlerweile zustimmen. Das finden wir gut. We are not worried. Of course, it came to our attention last week that there were apparently some preliminary plans to at least adjust some of the maritime borders. But based on the UN Convention on maritime borders or maritime law, it is totally okay to adjust the borders if it happens within certain range, and of course you can't do it unilaterally. But to this day, we haven't received any official demand from Russia or question whether they would like to proceed with this. So we just assume that they are not going to do that either. But at the same time, we of course have to be awake and be aware that Russia, whilst utilizing quite a wide range of hybrid instruments against us in the West, that's also causing, discrepancy or causing havoc, might also be one of their purposes here. I'm not classifying it as anything. I'm just speculating that it might also be that. So whilst I'm saying that we are calm, we haven't seen any reason to further, take this even up with the Russians, because they have declined that they would like to adjust the borders. If no, then why should we act? There's plenty that Russia is actually doing where we should be reacting, and we should be reacting even much better than what we are doing now. And one of those is, of course, what Russia is doing. They are instrumentalizing migration at the Finnish border. And just last week, Finland, we put together new legislation which would allow us to more flexibly counter this phenomenon. And we hope that this new law will be something that the European Union can use, perhaps as a sort of a case law for the rest of us, because obviously it is not just the Finnish border. They have been doing this together with Belarus, also towards other countries. And clearly it's not just the Finnish or Norwegian or Lithuanian or whichever border. It is the European well, in our case, European Union border, the NATO border, Schengen border, whichever. So we have to be in this together.
Did you raise this issue of these preliminary Russian plans in the NATO format?
We haven't raised that in the NATO format because, again, I mean, if we would react on all sorts of news from Russia, especially those who don't have any or which don't have any official backing, then we would be just, crazily running around. And that might be exactly what Russia wants to have. So we are clearly, having our eye on the ball and, again, coming back to the fact that we do prioritize the aid to Ukraine. And our second goal, of course, for the Washington summit is that we really take burden sharing seriously, that each and every NATO ally really does invest into their own defense and deterrence, and at the same time that we do share the burden of aiding Ukraine, who is fighting for all of us more equally than what we have been doing so far.
Is the 100 million proposal from the Secretary General a realistic one?
I would look at it on an annual basis in the sense that we know that the fighting now is very intense and Ukraine needs a lot of equipment, especially ammunition and air defense, like we talked about now critically. So probably the investment in the short term and in the medium term is higher what we need than, say, in hopefully 2 or 3 years. So I would look at it from the perspective that we, as NATO, all the countries who want to support Ukraine, we come up with the level of support which is needed, and then we equally distribute the burden. And we know that, these guys do have this and that in their inventory. Those guys don't have weapons. They can send euros, right? So this is the way to do it. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Okay. Well, the Finnish position is clear. Our candidate is Mark Rutte. And, if there are other candidates, there are other candidates, but I'm definitely not in a position to tell anybody to withdraw. And I think, of course, this just shows that we have many good candidates in the alliance, and we have still plenty of time also ahead of the Washington summit to find an agreement. I'm sure that will happen. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Proto začínáme parkovat